something else that the internet has kind of been exploding about. It's this little fan-made clip video based on Majora's Mask, and it's kind of a prequel of sorts to the game. It recounts the events leading up to what happens in Majora's Mask, and it's called Terrible Fate, and that's of course a reference to the line of "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" which is kind of like it's the I want to say it's probably the first line of dialogue that you see in the game, and it's the so the game, kind of some background since you're not familiar with the game. I'm sure not everyone watching is familiar with the game. The game is a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. At the end of Ocarina of Time, Link is returned to his childhood time, because you were both a child and an adult in that game. You traveled back and forth in time. You get returned back to your childhood time, and Navi, your fairy, leaves. So Link goes on a quest to find Navi.
Navi's like the blue thing with the wings.
Yes. Hey, listen! That thing. So, he's looking for Navi. He goes into the Lost Woods, and he gets tricked by this Skull Kid, which are just kind of like little
tree dudes.
Like
Groot when he's in his preteen age.
And they play tricks, and they play tricks on people that get stuck in the Lost Woods. And if you apparently get stuck in the Lost Woods, one of the legends is you turn into a Skull Kid, or you turn into a Staphos, which are the skeleton things from Zelda. But this thing kind of messes with him. He thinks he finds Navi. Long story short, at that part, Epona gets taken from him by the Skull Kid. Link gives chase and finds himself kind of in an Alice in Wonderland situation where he like falls down a hole and finds himself in this almost like an alternate reality to Hyrule called Termina. And he gets turned into a Deku Scrub.
Yep, that.
And
one of those.
He's called the Happy Mask Salesman, who makes an appearance in this film.
The elf dude.
Yeah, and he apparently is the same one from Ocarina of Time. The weird thing about Majora's Mask, or the cool thing about it, rather, is that all of the NPCs that you talk to, do you know what NPC means? I just want to make sure.
Yes, like the fake people.
Yeah. Non-playable
real
characters.
Players, yeah.
Or not player characters, yeah. But all the NPCs from Ocarina of Time are in Termina, are in Majora's Mask, but they're different. Like it's like a mirror world. But a lot of people think the Happy Mask Salesman is the same one from Hyrule, because he seems to recognize Link from the events of Ocarina of Time. And he says, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you, when you've been turned into a Deku Scrub?"
What's a Deku Scrub?
Deku Scrub are those things that pop out of the ground. They spit Deku nuts, and you have to bounce them back with your shield to
What the
hit
heck?
them.
Link gets turned into one of those?
Yeah, at the very beginning of the game, you're stuck as a Deku Scrub.
That's fun.
Yeah, you play. You honestly play for a few minutes as Link, and then that happens.
And then he gets turned back, right?
Yeah. You figure out a way to turn it back, and then you actually. That's like I want to say that's the first mask that you get, is the Deku Scrub mask, which you can turn into back into a Deku Scrub at will at that point, because you get some abilities with it. So it's not one of my more favorite Zelda games. I know, goodness, if you follow any of the YouTubers, if they're Zelda fans, they cannot stop talking about how much they love Majora's Mask. It's a very melancholy, it's a bit dark for a Zelda game.
Yeah, I hear a lot more about like Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time and stuff than...
Yeah, and of course a lot of it's centered around the moon falling in 3 days, and you have to constantly rewind time. I don't in particularly like that aspect of the game, and I think a lot of people that don't like the game don't like the fact that you rewind time, because when you rewind time, like, all the events get reset too. It's weird. You have to play it for yourself, but it's kind of like a Groundhog Day of sorts.
Without the Bill.
Without Bill Murray. Yeah. Now, this fan-made film, it's done very well. There's also they've since released a behind-the-scenes look of just how they did it and how they filmed it and how they collected assets for it and whatnot. I'm just concerned. I know that I've seen other fan-made stuff, specifically Zelda stuff that's been done, or we've talked about it here before. This guy has remade a lot of Ocarina of Time in Unreal Engine 4, and it looks incredible. And he's posted those videos on YouTube. I just get concerned with these things just because of how Nintendo has been handling fan projects. Not just lately, but like since forever. Yeah.
Since the dawn of time.
Yeah. They slap it with a DMCA claim, and he is using Zelda characters, even though this is like all original. It's originally produced, like they made those 3 models themselves, but it's using Nintendo's intellectual property. So
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Hashtag save the Majora's Mask trailer. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. In the chat, AM2R, another Metroid 2 remake, same exact thing.
Which we'll get to that later.
Yeah. So I just get concerned. I just don't know why Nintendo doesn't just see the potential in these projects and hire people, or even get some ideas from it. It's frustrating because I just feel like that they're going to come after them. Just because it's gotten so much attention, and that's the only reason they need.
Which for some reason attention's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, again, free advertising. Free advertising. You're not doing a thing. You're not lifting a finger. You're just letting the fans basically, be a beacon for your game. Word of mouth. That still works even in the digital age. Word of mouth at by digital means, even where people just share their passion. I can't tell you. I was looking on the Nintendo eShop, and I've been keeping up on like the Super Nintendo games that they released for the 3DS, since now I can download them. I've watched YouTube videos on the Final Fight series, which is a beat 'em up for the Super Nintendo, and I thought for a moment, like, what, those videos were actually kind of cool. Those games looked to be pretty neat. I might consider buying them now because I've seen a video on it. It works. And for someone doing something like this, I mean, someone might be like, what in the world is this? Like, you haven't really heard much about Majora's Mask before now. Now that there's a film, you're getting exposure to a game that you didn't have exposure to.
Exactly, and it makes the game look cool, too.
Yeah. So, I just...
Like, I remember when I watched the trailer thing and it ended, I'd asked you how it ended, so it's like... it's setting me up to want to play the game.
Exactly, and it foretells. It basically tells the story of Skull Kid, like the story that it tells in like the 3.5 to 4 minutes.
It's like 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5 minute long video. It shows you the events that Majora's Mask tells you happens, but doesn't show. So it supplements the game pretty well. If you haven't seen it yet, watch it. Just YouTube Terrible Fate. It's really well done. The animation is top notch. Like, if these are students really that are making this, my goodness, they're really, really talented. But Nintendo, you could always hire them. I'm a broken record at this point, but hire them. Do yourself a favor.
Nintendo's a broken record.